this is section 6.3. I'm going to do the show you knows, which are at the top of your page. And it says, determine each product using diagrams. And the first question it gives you in show you know 1 is 1/2 times 1/2. So the first thing you need to know is that when you multiply two fractions together, the intention or the meaning behind multiplying two fractions is this. This means the same thing as half of half. Multiplication symbols, the purpose of them when dealing with fractions or with dealing with any operation is typically the word of. So if you get used to interpreting a multiplication symbol as a word of, a lot of the times you can contextualize or put into context what the questions mean. So if 1/2 times 1/2 means 1/2 of 1/2, then I'm going to start with 1/2. And I think to myself, okay, that is 1/2. How much of it am I asked to keep, or how much am I asked to explain or talk about? Just 1/2 of this half. So I'm going to cut this half into half, and I'm going to put a check mark right there to represent the half of the half. And when I look at the half of the half, what used to have a denominator of 2 is now a denominator of 4. And of the parts of the pizza or the chocolate bar that were part of the half, since I'm keeping this part here, the whole top part, I get 1 part out of 4. Okay? So 1/2 of 1/2, according to my drawing, represents a quarter. Oh, sorry. The second question in the show you know says 1/3, this is B, times 3/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is interpret what it means and what the intention of it is. It's 1/3 of 3/4. So we have to pretend for a second that I have 3/4 of a pizza or whatever, and I get 1/3 of it. So I'm going to draw 3/4. So that's 3/4, and interpreting what it says again, I get to keep 1/3 of 3/4. Now, 1/3, since there's 3 pieces, would be just one of those quarters. Now, I can think of it that way, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to still cut it into thirds. And I'm going to put a check mark to represent 1/3 of those 3/4. Okay? So the fraction used to have a denominator of 4. Now it has a denominator of 12 parts. And the 1/3 I get to keep has 3 parts out of the total 12 parts that the pizza or the chocolate bar is divided into that I get to keep. But 3/12 is not lowest terms. I can reduce that to lowest terms by dividing by 3 to give me 1/4. The second show you know says estimate and calculate, but we're not going to do the estimation. We're going to simply cheat and use the algorithm. So what we talked about before is that for this one, instead of drawing it and thinking about what is 3/5 of 2/9, the simplest way to do it and the easiest way to do it is to simply multiply your numerators. It's my paper. Thank you. 3 times 2, and multiply your denominators, 5 times 9. And by doing so, you get the right answer of 6/45. That's the final answer. However, 6/45 is not lowest terms, because most of us realize that you can divide both by 3 to give you 3/15, which can still be divided by 3 again. Sorry, I made a mistake. 2/15, which is lowest terms.